Hey there, succulent lovers! Welcome back to our channel where we talk about all things succulents and cacti. Today we'll learn how to identify and address some common succulent problems by looking at their leaves. We all know that succulents are very resilient, but that does not mean they are immune to issues. Let's start with one of the most common problems, yellowing leaves. When succulent leaves turn yellow, it's typically a sign of watering issues. If the leaves are mushy and swollen, you're probably overwatering. But if they look shriveled and wilting, they're not getting enough water. If you're overwatering, scale back and let the soil dry out completely before watering again. If you're underwatering, bump up the frequency of your waterings, but make sure to give the plant a thorough soak, letting the excess water drain out of the pot. Just don't water again until the soil is completely dry. Next, shriveled leaves. Withered leaves on succulents usually mean they're thirsty. If the top leaves are wilting, it's probably because you haven't been watering enough. To fix it, water more often, making sure the water drains out of the pot completely. Keep in mind that succulents need more water during their growing season or in hot weather. But here's the twist. Overwatering can also cause leaves to shrivel, making them look limp or swollen. If that's the case, scale back on watering and make sure the top inch of soil is dry before you water again. Now, if you see brown marks or lines on succulent leaves, it's scarring or abrasions that come from too tough touching or scraping. This happens a lot with delicate plants like Aeoniums. Once the leaves are damaged, you can't fix them. You'll just have to trim them off, but don't sweat it. New leaves will grow in, and your succulent will look good again. To prevent this, just handle your succulents by the stem and make sure they aren't rubbing against anything. When it comes to leaf symptoms, edema can be a bit tricky. It's usually caused by overwatering or an irregular watering schedule, leading to pressure buildup in the leaves and creating bumps or blisters. Once edema occurs, the affected leaves can't be healed, but you can prevent it from spreading by reducing your watering frequency and maintaining the soak and dry method. Blotchy leaves, anyone? This can be a sign that your plants are feeling stressed out. Maybe they're getting too much sun, dealing with crazy weather, or you're not watering them consistently. Just adjust the watering routine and check the lighting condition. If your succulent is in direct sunlight and looks a bit sunburnt, try moving it to a spot with some shade. If it's not getting enough light, ease it into a brighter spot or use a grow light. If your succulents start changing color all of a sudden, it could be due to a bunch of reasons. Maybe you're watering them wrong, the lighting isn't quite right, or they're dealing with temperature swings. But don't freak out just yet. For some succulents, like Crassulas and aloes, color changes are totally normal when they're a bit stressed. What you should do is check out the lighting and try to keep them away from big temperature changes. Another problem is the crackling and scabby patches. They are often caused by Mycoplasma bacteria infection. This infection makes the flat leaves curl and fuse, creating a distinct tubular appearance. Once this happens, there's no way to treat the plant. You should prune off the leaves to prevent the infection from spreading to other succulents. Another thing you might notice with succulents is that they sometimes drop leaves, or you find that the lower leaves are dead. This is often just a normal part of how succulents grow, but if your succulent is shedding leaves like crazy, that's a whole different story. It might mean you're giving it too much or too little water, or that it's stressed out by sudden temperature changes. Pests and diseases. If you're not a pro at spotting them, it can be tough to catch them early. But here's a tip. Check the underside of the leaves, along the stems, and in the soil. If you find any pests, you should quarantine the plant so it doesn't infect your other plants. Treat the affected areas with neem oil or insecticidal soap, and that should do the trick. Besides pests, some fungal diseases can leave black spots on succulent leaves. If you see that happening, just cut off the damaged parts. Lastly, let's talk about etiolation. It's when your succulent stems start to stretch out because they're trying to find more sunlight. The leaves end up being smaller and fewer, and the stretched stems are pretty flimsy. To fix this, move your succulent to a spot with more light. A window that faces south or east is usually a good bet. If you don't get much sunlight in your home, a grow light can be your best friend. Don't forget to rotate your succulents every so often. There you have it. A guide to some of the most common succulent leaf symptoms and their treatments. If you have more questions, feel free to drop us a comment or send us a message. Don't forget to subscribe and join us next time for more succulent tips and tricks. Happy gardening!
For more, you can find us at succulentsbox.com or on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest.